Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever episode of Teenage Film Critic, where you can experience films through the lens of an average teenager. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, last night, I watched a film that had been on my watch list for years. It's a film that when it came out, I was a little too young for, and obviously you know what I'm talking about because you clicked on this video. I'm talking about Scott Derrickson's 2021 horror film, The Black Phone. First off, you may know Scott Derrickson from his popular film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Doctor Strange, and he's also known for the hit horror movie Sinister, which is also starring Ethan Hawke. Let me just say, right off the bat, Scott Derrickson is at his best in The Black Phone. For anyone who hasn't seen it, The Black Phone is a horror film set in the 1970s in a small town in Denver. The town is plagued by kidnappings by a madman known as the Grabber, who, guess what, is played by Ethan Hawke. Finney, the main character, is played by Mason Thames, and he's a shy 13-year-old who has had friends and people he knows taken by the Grabber, and one day he shares that fate. The Grabber traps Finney in a soundproof basement with nothing but a mattress, a toilet, and a disconnected phone on the wall. Soon, Finney realizes that on the other end of the phone are the voices of the Grabber's victims, who want to help Finney escape. So obviously you have a very unique premise, and this is actually based on a short story by Stephen King's son, Joe Hill. And I'm not going to spoil anything for those who haven't watched the movie, so have no fear, there will be no spoilers in this video. I highly encourage each and every one of you to check out this film. With that being said, let's dive into my review. So, this movie wouldn't be nearly as good as it is if it wasn't for Ethan Hawke, and I mean that when I say it. Ethan Hawke delivers an absolutely chilling performance as the Grabber, and he really does steal the spotlight every time he's on screen. Mason Thames as Finney is also brilliant, and he and Madeline McGraw play a fantastic brother-sister duo. Their performances bring out the kind of emotion that you just don't see in a typical horror film. And speaking of horror, would I consider The Black Phone actually scary? The answer I will give you is yes, although not in the way of a typical horror movie. Instead of jump scares and loud noises, the film dwells on a lot of psychological horror and tension, which, in my opinion, is the scariest type of horror. The dark lighting and the cinematography from Scott Derrickson does really add on to the suspense and mystery of the plot, which, in my opinion, is executed really well. The screenplay itself, so like the script and the adaptation from short story to the big screen, is really incredible. The movie flows really well from start to finish, and Scott Derrickson really makes you care about these characters, and I never really felt bored of this movie. I really wanted it to just keep going, and then when the end credits finally rolled, there was definitely a sense of satisfaction because the entire plot wrapped up really well, and it brings a lot of the movie full circle. I thought that the supernatural aspect of the movie, so the ghosts of the Grabber's past victims being on the phone, was brilliant. I thought it brought the tension and the suspense of the overall movie up, but it was interesting because usually in horror movies we have the supernatural ghosts as the antagonists. Well, in this one they're actually, helping the main character, which was definitely an interesting take that I've never really seen before in the horror genre, but it absolutely paid off and it made the entire movie so much better. So overall, how would I rate The Black Phone, and is this a movie I would recommend? The answer is an absolute resounding yes. Film buffs, especially horror fans, will have a blast with this movie. I'm going to give it a 9.4 out of 10 overall, and it quickly became one of my favorite horror movies ever after just one watch, and I hope that you will experience something similar. And guess what? The story is not even over. Black Phone 2 is actually in theaters this October, bringing back Mason Thames, Madeline McGraw, and most importantly, Ethan Hawke. So I'm beyond excited for the sequel, and I really hope you enjoyed this review. Until next time.